Well, we're back, and we finally have news from the record label head guy, the head dude. Here's what he says. Quote, I did have a listen to the artist you sent me. I went through a friend who knows this guy well. These guys are, and they're around 70 years old. One of them's, I think, is mid-70s, something like that. These are guys who've been around the block. Okay, I did have a listen to the artist you sent me. Just a couple of instrumentals, right? Instrumentals are fine, but a tough sell if they don't have a catchy melody. Good player, but needs to develop a melody that catches the ear. For example, Joe Satriani. Well, what I got out of that was he called me a good player. He called me a good guitar player. Apparently, this guy is a good guitar player himself, having played in different venues, and he's the head of music production for a well-known sports thing on TV. I won't talk more about that. Now, he says here, needs to develop a catchy melody. I think my songs, these latest two songs, which I'm going to put out on Spotify, of course, and then I'll provide the link so y'all can listen to them. I think they're really good, but, you know, that's what this guy says, and he knows a lot more than I do. So, by the way, my chair keeps doing this. I have to look in the monitor, see where my head is on the top of the frame here. So I gotta just keep playing. Okay. Nuclear-powered tunnel boring machines. This idea, which I believe is 100% accurate. It would be 110% accurate if possible. But these deep underground military base things, these DUMBs, D-U-M-B. Phil Schneider is someone who alleges that out in Dulce, New Mexico, he worked for a company that was drilling down some shafts, some big tunnels, or vertical tunnels, shafts going into Archuleta Mesa. And he says that they went right into a place where there were these underground creatures, these aliens.
I was involved in building a base inside of Dulce, New Mexico, on the southwest part of the Archuleta Mesa. In this process, I was lowered down the basket of one of these holes, and about from me to this elderly woman here in the front was sitting a 7-foot-tall alien gray. The stench was worse than the worst garbage can you can imagine, and I killed 2 of them. Yes, they're mortal, and they do die.
A lot of you probably already know. I mean, if you're watching this stuff, you're watching my channel, you're probably familiar with Phil Schneider. So I started digging into these tunnel boring machines. And, well, let's take a look. Okay, here's the patent number we're going to search for. 36937331. Here we go. Method and apparatus for tunneling by melting. Let's take a look at the PDF. This patent comes from September 1972. We have some guys who did this here, and they're all of Los Alamos, New Mexico. All right, the assignee, USA's the Atomic Energy Commission. Okay, the abstract here. A machine and method for drilling boreholes and tunnels by melting, in which a housing is provided for supporting a heat source. Yeah, you gotta have that. And a heated in portion, and in which the necessary melting heat is delivered to the walls of the in portion. So you have this pointy thing, you have something that generates a lot of heat, you have what they call heat pipes. I read this earlier. And these heat pipes are actually pipes filled with a fluid that when heated up will turn to a gas, and then as it disperses heat into the in walls of this pointy thing, it turns back into a liquid again. So this fluid keeps going around and around. Let's see if we might talk about that here in a second, looking through this. It says the heat source can be electrical or nuclear, but for deep drilling is preferably a nuclear reactor. So here is the drawing of this pointy thing. It just kind of looks like a big, kind of like a ballpoint pen or something. See here, this looks like maybe a diagram of some heat pipes right here coming down. Here's a little rectangle part hooked up to the wall. So this article, basically the point of it is this nuclear powered tunnel boring machine would get really hot. It would push through rock. It would be melting rock. This thing would need to be around 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit to be melting different types of rock that you would encounter. Rocks like granite. It takes a lot of heat to do that. Specifically, they do talk about the heat that would be necessary here. Yeah, in case of the rock melting drill. Okay, so they're talking about the differences between drilling through something versus having something that just melts through it. Igneous rocks melt at about 1,200 degrees Celsius. The point is, this thing has to get really hot and it has to maintain these temperatures to be able to melt through rocks. You gotta think, so something this hot has to be made of a certain metal alloy to be able to handle that and not break down itself. You have this thing pushing through these rocks, melting its way through it. What keeps the metal itself on that thing from not melting? Okay, regarding those heat pipe containers, a gas-tight refractory metal tube or shell. The preferable appropriate working fluid is lithium. Lithium fluid? That's what is contained in these heat pipes to push this heat out to the outer walls of this thingy? Man. Lithium heat pipes made of, get this, have you ever heard of this? Yeah, I doubt it. Niobium-1% zirconium alloys. Other materials such as alloys like tantalum-10% tungsten are capable of operation to as high temperatures as 2100 degrees Kelvin, which is 1827 Celsius. 1827 Celsius, right? Oh man, look at that. 3,300 degrees Fahrenheit. Can you imagine a metal that can stand up to that? 3,300 degrees Fahrenheit. Here we go. A tunneling speed of 100 meters per day is well within the heat transfer capabilities of the heat pipe. What's amazing to me is all these studies were done, and theoretically, the government is doing, not all the government, a lot of people in the government have zero idea what's going on. These companies that partake in these things, these government contractors, assuming Phil Schneider was correct, and that's what we have to go off of for this, they're engaged in a tremendous cover-up, an amount of evil that is. First of all, what are these tunnels used for? Are they used for trafficking little ones? Yeah, probably. Are they used for genetic hybrid experiments? Are they used for meeting with creatures that aren't supposed to exist, that possibly live somewhere inside the earth? There are a lot of ideas out there, and I wouldn't be surprised if all of them are true. To certain degrees, certain times, one way or another. Do you remember the earthquakes that happened out at China Lake? Here we go. All right. Some people think that there was really evil stuff going on. Really evil stuff going on at this Naval Air Weapons Station, the NAWS, China Lake. Get this. It happened on July 4th. July 4th, Independence Day, 2019. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. Seems a little fishy, huh? So some people think that there's this massive underground facility, secret stuff going on out at China Lake, and that it could have been drilled by these nuclear-powered tunnel boring machines. Some people think the Q stuff, was accurate in that these tunnels had something to do with the planning, demise, destruction, destabilization of the U.S. as a whole, and that these earthquakes were not earthquakes. These were detonations taking care of this evil. I have no idea, but it's an interesting thing to think about, huh? Let's see here, 6.4 magnitude earthquake. Let's look up NAWS map. No, we're not looking for weird chicks wearing weird what is this? Okay, so here we go. Here's what a map. California. Of course it's California.